everyone, and welcome to Vaccines and All That Jazz. I'm AARP Indiana State Director Sarah Waddle, and I'm going to be your host this evening. Vaccines and All That Jazz is really a celebration of where we are today. It's officially Jazz Appreciation Month, and more than 1 million Hoosiers have been vaccinated. Definitely something to celebrate. Tonight, we're going to virtually party, as well as get some facts about the COVID-19 vaccines. We want to thank our friends at the Jazz Kitchen in Indianapolis. We're going to learn how to make a couple of cocktails to go along with the fun. And tonight's jams are going to be brought to you by local jazz legends, the Rob Dixon Quartet. In fact, let's go ahead and cut over to the Jazz Kitchen now and start the night off right with Rob and his band. Awesome. That was a fantastic start to the evening. Thanks again to the Rob Dixon Quartet. And we're going to hear a little bit more from you all in just a few minutes. Now I think I want to check in with our special guest, Dr. Dan Rusyniak, who's the Chief Medical Officer with Indiana's Family and Social Services Administration. Dr. Dan has been at the forefront of Indiana's vaccine efforts to contain COVID-19, and he's here with us tonight to share all that he knows about the COVID-19 vaccine. Hi, Dr. Dan, how are you doing?
I am great. I mean, how could you be better? Back at Jazz Kitchen, talking about the importance of vaccines in Indiana and partner with AARP. Couldn't be better.
I'm so great to hear that, Dr. Dan. We're so happy to have you with us. So tonight for you, I think we're going to have a couple of Q&As, and then we'll get some tunes in and mosey up to the bar for those drinks. So to get us started off, let's just go with a basic question. And this is one we hear a lot. Can a person be harmed by receiving the COVID-19 vaccination?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when clinicians are making a decision about a medicine in a patient, right, we often weigh the risks of the medicine, so what kind of effects it might have, side effects, versus the risks of not getting the medicine. So either leaving their disease untreated, or if we're talking about vaccines, of getting the infection. So normally we think about those decisions and we weigh the risks and benefits, but when it comes to COVID-19 and the vaccines, it's a really pretty easy decision for clinicians. And that's because the side effects from the vaccine are much less than the effects of having the virus itself. We know, for instance, some individuals may, for a day or so after the vaccine, feel a little bit like they've got a viral illness, but that goes away, and that's much less than the severe symptoms that you can see with COVID-19, things like pneumonia and blood clots, and we know some of the long-term effects that we're now seeing in individuals. So it's really an easy decision from a clinical standpoint in recommending the vaccine. I think it's important to think about one other thing too, and that is not only the risks to you if you're thinking about the vaccine, but the risks to all the individuals that you come in contact with. So your family and your friends, because you getting a vaccine not only protects you, but it also protects them from potentially getting infected. And so I think all those things together, getting the vaccine really is the smart and the selfless thing to do.
It's a great relief. What about other pandemic basics? Things seem to be changing day by day. Should I still wear a mask? Do I still socially distance if I've been vaccinated?
Yeah, that's a question we hear a lot. The answer is it depends. It depends on who you're with and where you're at. Now, we recommend masks because, number one, they help protect you from getting the virus if you come in contact with it, and they also help protect others in case you have the virus and don't know it from you giving it to them. Now, after you're fully vaccinated, and so that's 14 days after the final shot in your series, we know that your risk of getting COVID-19 is much less, and even more importantly, if you get COVID-19 after you're vaccinated, that your risk of getting severely ill and dying is greatly reduced. So that's great news. But we do know that some individuals can still, even when fully vaccinated, get COVID-19, and therefore could still potentially spread it to others. So the first thing you need to consider on wearing a mask is, who am I with? If you're in a small group of individuals that you know who are also fully vaccinated, then I think it's fine to take your mask off, to get within that kind of social distance space, and to re-engage into that kind of human contact I think so many of us have lost during this pandemic. If you're in a gathering, though, where some of the individuals you're with do not have the vaccine and are not fully vaccinated, and more importantly, are at increased risk if they get COVID-19, that's where you want to be wearing a mask still and still do social distancing. So it's no longer really about your risk, but really about continuing to protect those. In addition, wearing a mask does help protect you from some of the new, what we call variants of COVID-19. These are different strains of the virus that have changed enough that your vaccine may not be as effective. Now, when you're out in the community and it's crowded, wearing a mask should still protect you against coming into contact potentially with one of these new variants of the vaccine. And so that'll be important, I think, to continue on until we have enough people vaccinated in our community that we really are no longer worried about the high level of community spread from this virus.
That's good to know, and it's definitely worth celebrating. Let's jump over to our friend Kenny with the Jazz Kitchen. He's going to teach us how to make a cocktail for a perfect celebration, and then we're going to enjoy some more tunes from the Rob Dixon Quartet. Kenny?
The first drink we've got today is the Slow and Low Sidecar. So it's kind of a spin on a traditional cognac cocktail. We do it a little different. We have this Slow and Low rye whiskey. It's infused with navel oranges and honey, so it kind of brings a little sweetness to it. If you're making this at home, feel free to use your favorite rye or cognac. This is our riff on it. So we're going to do 1.5 ounces of the slow and low rye whiskey. And do 3/4 ounce of Grand Marnier. 1/2 ounce of fresh lemon juice. If you're making at home, it's 1/2 lemon will probably get the job done. And then a little bit of simple syrup, so just sugar water. And then Angostura bitters, about 4 or 5 dashes. Let's go ahead and give this a little chill. You don't need to go crazy with it. You don't need to shake it. Just get it mixed and a little chill on it. And then we're going to strain it into a martini glass. And then to finish it off, and a little lemon twist here. And that is your slow and low sidecar.
Wow, I have to say that it's just great to hear live music again, isn't it, Dr. Dan?
It's so good to hear live music again. I think of all the things I've missed, I think that's probably the biggest in the last year.
Well, we should cover some more vaccine facts while we have you here and while the band takes 5. Dr. Dan, could you talk about the side effects of the different vaccines that are available? What are they like?
Yeah, so the 3 vaccines that are currently approved in the United States all have similar side effect profiles. So we can really just talk about the side effects from the vaccine in general. And I like to think of those in really 3 big buckets. The first is because of the way we deliver the vaccine. So we give the vaccine by giving you a shot in your arm. And so similar to other vaccines you've had or other shots you've had, you might have some soreness in the arm where you get the shot. It's fairly short-lived, usually a day or so. Most people will get this, and it's not so severe that it's going to impede your ability to use your arm or do things. The second bucket I would look at is kind of what I would call a normal immune response. Now, vaccines work by training your immune system to recognize a viral protein, and then if it sees it, to kill it. And in that training process, when you get the vaccine, you can get activation of that immune response. And so you can get some mild symptoms. Typically, you can get some fatigue, headache, body aches. Occasionally, some folks will actually get a fever. Those symptoms usually begin the day after your vaccine and are fairly short-lived, usually gone within a day or 2. As I've said earlier, those symptoms are also much less than the symptoms of the virus itself. And then you do get them, unlike when you're feeling a little ill or under the weather. The good news is this is something to celebrate, and that's because it's telling you that your immune system is trained, does recognize that virus, and will be prepared if it comes into contact with it again. The last bucket I would call is what I would say is an abnormal immune response. These are what we call acute allergic reactions. This is when somebody's immune system overreacts to something it's exposed to, even if that something is not potentially life-threatening. Think of it like bee stings or peanut allergies for some individuals. We know that about 5% of the population can have an acute allergic reaction to a bee sting and about 1% to peanuts. I bet you know somebody who has one of those allergies because that involves a large number of individuals. But if we put the allergic response from the vaccine into context, we know that you can get between about 2 and 10 individuals out of every 1 million people vaccinated who can have an allergic response to one of these vaccines. To put that into comparison, that's not 5% or 1%, that's 0.001%. So that is incredibly uncommon. Now, the other thing about that is we know that individuals who develop acute allergic reactions are individuals who are more likely to have had an allergic reaction to a previous vaccine. So we also tend to know those who are at greatest risk. Now, if you're really worried that, about your history of allergies, then of course reach out to your doctor before you get vaccinated. If you're still worried that you might be that 1 in a million type individual, the other good news is that allergic reactions are something that we know how to recognize and how to effectively treat. And that's why at over 400 sites that provide vaccines in the state of Indiana, individuals are there who know how to recognize an allergic reaction and how to respond to it. And the medicines we have for that are very effective, even to the point where the few people who do get this tend to get treated and actually still are able to go home the same day.
Well, that doesn't sound too scary. What should I know about the new strains of COVID-19? What do new strains mean for these vaccines?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, vaccines can change over time. The way a vaccine reproduces in your body is to make copies of itself. Now, different from the copy machine you might have at work, when a vaccine makes copies of itself, it often has mistakes in it. Now, sometimes those mistakes make the virus less infectious, meaning harder to transmit to other people. And sometimes those mistakes can actually make the virus more infectious and even sometimes more lethal. When that occurs, that's when we start talking about a new strain or a new variant of the virus. Now, the good news right now is that the 3 vaccines available in the US are effective against the variants that are in our current community. So while we worry a little bit as the virus changes over time and why we still recommend viruses, right now getting your vaccine is still going to protect you against them.
That's all great information to know in this ever-changing experience that we're all in. Let's shake things up a bit and check back in with our friend Kenny and learn how to make one more cocktail.
Today I have something to roll us into summertime here. It's another signature cocktail that we do. It's a Hurricane. It's kind of a classic New Orleans cocktail. So we're gonna use some light rum, an ounce of light rum, an ounce of spiced rum. And then we have a little concoction of passion fruit and grenadine. And that was an ounce and a half of that. And then just a little splash of pineapple juice. I'm gonna top this device. Give it a good shake. Over some fresh ice. We'll throw a little cherry on here. And that is your classic Hurricane.
Dr. Dan, I think we have just a couple more questions that you can help us out with tonight. One of them being, what questions should I ask my doctor when considering if one of these vaccines is right for me?
Yeah, if you have concerns because of your medical condition or your history about getting the vaccine, then reach out to your doctor's office. And the question I would recommend you ask is, based on my medical history, is there any reason I should not get this vaccine? If they say no, then I think you're good to go. Get scheduled and go out and get your vaccine.
That really helps, Dr. Dan. And lastly, how can I help inform others about the vaccine and get them accurate information?
Yeah, we know there's a lot of misinformation out there about vaccines and the virus itself. And so just like if you were going to buy a watch on the street, which probably on second thought, I recommend you don't buy a watch on the street. But if you did, right, you'd be concerned about the authenticity of what you were getting. And that should be the same about the information you get around COVID-19 and vaccines and you give to others. I think the best two resources you're going to have is the CDC website and the Indiana State Department of Health. That's because both are created by health professionals, scientists, and individuals who make sure that the material there is communicated in a way that even individuals without medical and science backgrounds can understand. So if you have questions about the vaccine, then go to cdc.gov or rshot.in.gov.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dan. It's been great talking with you this evening, and I hope that our viewers have enjoyed you and your information and the music this evening. Everyone watching can get more information on vaccines by visiting aarp.org/IN vaccine. And you can also get more information about AARP Indiana at aarp.org/IN. We want to thank Dr. Dan, the Jazz Kitchen, Kenny, tonight's bartender, and the band. And with that, I'm going to ask the Rob Dixon Quartet to go ahead and play us on out of here with their last set of songs from the Indianapolis Jazz Kitchen. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.